G'day guys, you're back with Miracle Max. Today we're looking at a Ford Ranger 2017 model with that 3.2 litre diesel engine in it. And what we're doing today is we are replacing a fuel filter on it. So it's only a tiny little guy, isn't it? Which means we have to undo a canister of some description and insert it in there. So let's get into it. For those of you who've been watching my videos for some time, you notice that I always take photos. Why is that? Well, when you pull apart something, you might think to yourself, yeah, I'll remember it, not a problem. Then you get distracted. If you have a photo, you can go back to it. And of course, nowadays with the old digital phones, there's no problems whatsoever. You can delete them afterwards if you don't like them, or you can keep them for references for the future. So today I'm going to be taking a photo of the fuel filter itself. Why is that? There are 4 connectors on there and it's easy to get them wrong. Here is our fuel filter. It's next to the battery over here, and as you can see, it's got written on it tank as well as engine. My problem is that we have 4 connectors going onto it. A red one down the bottom, a white one here, and a blue one in the background. Now I'm not sure if they're all the same size, but hey, a photo isn't going to kill me and it's good for future reference. Look, it's a little hard to get the best camera view for you guys, but I'm doing what I can. I'm going to show you how to remove these connectors. Now this red one over here, which is probably a little obscured from view, you can just shove a screwdriver in the side. There's a bit of a slot in the side, and gently, probably in the road there, just gently lift it up, and then hopefully you should be able to come around from this side, just get under there, and it should get to a place where it stops. So that is now ready to come off. I'm going to leave it there for now. Normally you would depressurize the system before you pull off the lines. This hasn't been started in quite some time, probably about an hour, so I'm happy to pull this off. The fuel would have bled away. But yeah, there's going to be a bit of a mess to tidy up anyway, but this fella here is now ready to come off. And it should be just a matter of wigglage jigglage, and you can see basically no fuel came out. This fella over here is a little bit different. It looks like it goes down. I have taken a photo, don't forget. So that comes off, that's my next one off. Further down, there's another red one and a blue one over this side. Same method applies. I'm now using a scribe here with a bit of an angle thingy on it. And that should be a little bit easier, or make it easier to get those fellas out, because it's down there a bit. It's a bit hard to get out. So bear with, folks. All right, there we go. That one's out. It's ready to come back. There we go. Now that blue one's next. Yes, same principle applies. Lift him up on the side, get under there a bit, like that. Now that one's ready to come out too. Alright, so you just lift it up, and of course there'll be a water sensor on the bottom there, as you can see. It's just a matter of disconnecting that cable, which also has I might just lay that filter on its side because it's pretty messy. And that connector, I'll show you when I pull it off. There you go. So you just disconnect that connector. That's your water level sensor. There's also a drain on the bottom of the filter to get rid of water build-up, etc., which can be done independent from replacing the filter itself. But today we're doing the filter. Keep in mind, I need to drain this before I pull the lid off. Before I disassemble the actual filter housing assembly here, I'm going to put a mark on it, but notice there's a mark here, but there's also a mark around here, as if it's been misaligned. But this is how I found it, that's how I'm putting it back. So I'm just going to put a dot here and here between the 2 housings, just to make sure that I can realign it afterwards, just like that. Now what needs to happen is this collar needs to be unscrewed. Now some of these get super tight, and you can use something along the lines of this, like an oil filter remover, a really large one. But when I was pulling this apart just in preparation, I noticed that it was actually quite loose. Well, that's what happened before. All right, let's hold on to that. Just like that, see? So it was actually quite loose, so I caught it then, but yeah, that should come undone like that, and the top half should then be removed from the bottom half. if we wiggle jiggle, I'm sure there's an O-ring in there, and there might be some leakage as well, so we just want to make sure that we pull that off carefully. Don't want to get it too tight in the vise there, of course. There we go. It's just catching on that side, and our filter now comes out. My goodness me. You see what I see? I'll see if I can zoom in for you folks. Get a bit more lookage there. That's disgusting. Look, there's stuff falling off. I don't know if that's water or whatever, but yeah, it's long overdue for a filter change, isn't it? So we'll pop the new one in for the customer. Make sure, just keep in mind that there is fluid around, so it's not a bad idea to have a tray, Exhibit A, and just chuck it in the tray for disassembly, etc. And we can empty out our container as well. Now that it's on the bench, it's not that hard. This little fella should just wiggle out, okay? It's held in by an O-ring, as you can see right here. We discard this bloke. Then it's a good idea just to give it a bit of a clean inside to make sure that the new O-ring has got a good surface to sit on. Using a clean bit of diesel or rubber grease perhaps, you can just whack a little bit around that O-ring to make sure it's going to slide into place nicely. So in it goes, just like that. Simples. We've now got our canister style thing. Just empty out the diesel there and give that a good wipe out. Down here you can see the float that's used for the water sensor. That'll have a reed switch inside of here, and once the level comes up because of water is denser than oil, of course it sinks to the bottom, and that will push that up, and that in turn will go through the little connector here, a switch up onto your dash to let you know that you've got water in the system and it's time to be drained. And that of course can be done simply by undoing this little I don't know what you call it, little undoey thing, that's what we'll call it, and you can get rid of your water there, no probs. But today we're actually replacing the filter, aren't we? Before we do that, make sure that you put a little bit of clean diesel on the O-ring there so that it seats into the canister properly. So that little fella there will fit into like that, just like that, and don't get caught because there's a little O-ring that we have to replace as well. That's in the kit. That's that fella there that we need to replace, that O-ring, so we'll get him out. Dig out our old one. Of course I should have done this before I put the filter in, didn't really think about it. Not that it's an issue. Stick the new O-ring into that groove there, just slide him around till it gets into place, and make sure it's actually in that groove correctly and that it's seated properly. There you go. Would have got caught with that one, hey? In he goes. And of course then we just put a tiny bit of diesel once again on it like I did with the other one. It's now ready to go back together. So remember, I've got to line up those little dots, so those two there. They'll fit into a certain sort of a slot. They have several slots aligned to fit in different positions, as you can see here, little slotty things that will go into a groove there. So plonk him into place, then we can pull our screw back into place. Just another hint too, it's not a bad idea to use some sort of silicone or something along those lines just on the thread there to make it easier to put that thread on. Sometimes with the plastic they dry out and they can be a bit of a pain to put back together. I've got the two dots lined up now, and of course now that the screw thread has been lubricated, that should just go up nicely. I'll stick it in the vise to finish it off, of course. It's easy to over tighten these locking collars, so fortunately the manufacturer, whoever that may be, has been kind enough to put a couple little arrows there. There's two little arrows that says open, but also notice there's a little arrow up the top there. Line those two guys up and she's nice and tight. It's ready to go back on the vehicle now. Of course, don't forget that we have to grab that wherever it is. Hello, there he is. That's a water sensor connector, and hook that fella up. So make sure that we do that first before we do anything else. That's clipped into place, I'm happy with that. Now this fella here has to slide into a bracket of some description. I see it, it's just down there. Can you see that bracket? It's just round about there somewhere. And this fella slides into that. So let's pop him into place and see how we go. Make sure you get your pipes or your hoses, whatever you want to call those things. Get them out the road, you don't want to drag them down. Oh, look at that, nice. Now, what do we need to do? We need to refer to our photo, don't we? Now, I am glad that I took a photo simply because those two red ones, there and there, they can fit on either side. It could go there or there. Which way do they go? Well, they've got a little paint mark on them. I don't know if you can see. Whoops, 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 whoops. Oh, goodness me. Okay, there's a little paint mark. I think that one is white. That one there is blue. So glad I took a photo. So firstly, our blue one goes down the bottom. That was pretty easy to put on. Just slide him into place and then push that down. So the blue one goes right up the top and the white one goes down the bottom. So I just push that to one side. I'll get my white one here, plonk him on there, like that, and put my white one here, like that. My red one, sorry, with the blue thing on top. So how do we prime the system? Well, it's pretty easy on this one. It has an in-tank electric pump. We're under the car at the moment simply so that you can hear the priming of the fuel system. You should be able to hear that buzzing in the fuel tank. To prime the fuel pump, we simply turn the ignition key on. In this particular case, I think they prime continuously, which is unusual. I'll hook up my microphone next to the tank so that you can hear it buzz when I turn the ignition. You'll probably hear it change sound as the air gets pushed through or primed through the system. It'll make all sorts of bubbling sounds, no doubt. Hang on, I'll turn on the ignition. Did you hear all those gurgling noises as the air gets compressed and pushed through the system? I think she's primed and ready to go. I've had a really good look for leaks, both on the piping side of things, where that locking nut goes on. Can't see any leaks. Hopefully all the O-rings are okay. What do we need to do? Well, turn the key, see if it starts. Okay, so let it run for a little while. Make sure that it doesn't hesitate and stall. Bring up the revs a little bit through the rev range and you should be right. Like that, for instance. We may have to prime it several times before it gets rid of any airlocks. You can hear some air going through at the moment. As you can hear, it's up and running. All I had to do was prime it about 10 times, something along those lines. Now these aren't a permanent prime. They actually have a 10-second cycle. So on and off with the ignition. I should have done that originally. I just primed it the once. I thought that was good enough, but no. Don't get caught out like I did, guys. Make sure you prime it maybe 5-10 times. Leave it on for 10 seconds. That's the prime cycle, and then back it off, then back on, wait for your 10 seconds. You'll physically hear the low pressure pump cut out. So now we've learnt how to replace a fuel filter on a 2017 Ford Ranger with a 3.2 litre diesel engine in it. So if you've learnt something today, guys, just like I have, and you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel. Give it a like. Feel free to comment down below. Of course, don't forget about that notification bell. You don't want to miss any future videos. So, got to finish the service. Until next time, guys, this is Miracle Mate signing off. I will catch you later.